The Kepler 186 system had once been a place of scientific wonder, 5 planets orbiting a red dwarf star, with Kepler 186f being the first Earth-sized planet discovered in the habitable zone of another star. Now, it was a place of bitter conflict, as civil war raged between the loyalists who supported continued governance from the original colonial administration and the separatists who demanded autonomy. What had begun as political protests had devolved into armed conflict that now engulfed 3 of the system's 5 planets and their orbital habitats. From safe observation distance, Director Anya Sharma watched through the main view screen as another habitat module on Kepler 186d's largest moon burned, sending plumes of escaping atmosphere into the void. She clenched her jaw, her dark eyes reflecting the distant fires. "Ma'am, all ships report ready for approach," her communications officer reported from behind her. Sharma nodded, turning to face the bridge crew of the Earth Interstellar Aid Agency flagship Hope. Unlike the sleek, predatory lines of military vessels, the Hope resembled nothing so much as a massive, gleaming white whale. Originally a colony transport, the ship had been retrofitted for humanitarian missions, with large portions of its interior space converted to medical bays, refugee accommodation, and supply storage. "Begin broadcast of our neutral status and mission parameters on all frequencies," she ordered, "and make sure our markings are fully illuminated." The Hope and its companion vessels, 5 medical ships and 7 cargo transports, all bore the distinctive blue and white markings of the EI, bold enough to be visible even from considerable distances. The symbols were recognized throughout known space as markers of humanitarian missions. "Starting approach vector to the agreed-upon safe corridor," announced the pilot, a young woman named Talia. "ETA to pickup zone, 47 minutes. Sharma nodded, then addressed the ship's AI. "Central, please display the evacuation manifest again." A holographic display appeared, showing the numbers: 12,000 civilians expected for evacuation, including approximately 4,000 children. Over 3,000 were classified as injured, with 800 requiring immediate critical care. The evacuees included people from both factions of the Civil War, as well as neutral colonists caught in the crossfire. "Dr. Reese," Sharma called to the tall, thin man standing at a nearby console. "Are your medical teams prepared for the intake?" Dr. Liam Reese looked up for his tablet, pushing his glasses back up his nose. "As ready as we'll ever be, Director. We've prepared triage protocols based on the preliminary data, and all surgical bays are prepped. I've distributed medical staff across all ships to handle the initial assessments." Sharma nodded approvingly. Reese was new to her command team, but his reputation preceded him. One of Earth's finest trauma surgeons who had chosen to serve with the EIA rather than build a lucrative practice on Earth. "Captain Morris," she addressed her security chief. "Status of our protective measures?" Morris, a former UN peacekeeper with a weathered face that had seen too many conflicts, shrugged. "We've reinforced the hull shields as much as possible, but they're designed for cosmic radiation and debris, not weapons fire. If anyone decides to target us deliberately, we won't last long." "That won't happen," Sharma said firmly. "We have clearance from both factions, and the Galactic Treaty observers have registered our mission. No one would dare attack a clearly marked humanitarian convoy." As the words left her mouth, a proximity alert sounded. On the tactical display, 3 vessels appeared, approaching from the direction of the system's outer reaches. They were moving fast on an intercept course. "Identification," Sharma demanded. The tactical officer's voice was tight with concern. "Forlag Alliance warships, Director. Destroyer class. They're not supposed to be in this sector." The Forlag Alliance was a regional power known for its aggressive expansion policies and disregard for galactic treaty conventions. They had no official stake in the Kepler 186 conflict, but intelligence suggested they were opportunistically eyeing the resource-rich system, waiting for both sides to weaken each other before making their move. "Open a channel," Sharma ordered. "Forlag vessels. This is Director Anya Sharma of the Earth Interstellar Aid Agency Convoy. We are on a sanctioned humanitarian mission with prior notification to all parties." Please acknowledge and maintain safe distance from our operation zone. For several tense moments, there was no response. Then a harsh voice came through, accompanied by the image of a pale, gaunt man with cybernetic implants visible along his jawline. EIA vessel. This is Commander Kalen of the Four-Lag Alliance Vanguard. Your presence is noted. We are conducting security operations in this sector, following reports of weapons smuggling disguised as humanitarian aid. Sharma bristled. Commander, I assure you, our mission is purely humanitarian. We carry no weapons, only medical supplies, food, and essential provisions. We welcome inspection by neutral parties if required. Kalen's expression remained impassive. Continue on your registered flight path. Any deviation will be considered hostile action. We will monitor your activities. The communication cut off abruptly. Sharma exchanged uneasy glances with her bridge crew. Maintain course and speed, she ordered. But keep monitoring those ships. I don't like this. The convoy continued its approach to the designated evacuation zone, a space station orbiting Kepler 186d that had been declared a neutral area for the operation. As they drew closer, they could see the crowds of people already waiting in the station's docking bays, possessions reduced to whatever they could carry, faces marked by exhaustion and fear. First wave of shuttles is ready for deployment once we're in position, reported the operations chief. Sharma nodded, but her attention was fixed on the tactical display showing the Four-Lag ships. They had adjusted their course to parallel the convoy's path, maintaining a distance that was just within weapons range, close enough to strike quickly if they chose to. They're positioning for something, Morris muttered beside her. I've seen this formation before. Before Sharma could respond, the proximity alert blared again. The three Four-Lag ships had suddenly accelerated, breaking into a spread formation that would allow them to target multiple ships simultaneously. All ships, raise shields to maximum. Sharma shouted. Evasive maneuvers. But it was too late. The first volley from the Four-Lag ships tore through space, striking the rearmost medical ship. Unlike military vessels, the EIA ships had minimal defensive capabilities. The shields of the medical ship collapsed almost instantly under the concentrated fire, and the ship's port side erupted in a series of devastating explosions. They're targeting our engines and communication arrays, Morris reported grimly as another barrage hit a cargo transport, sending it spinning out of formation. This is Director Sharma to all Four-Lag vessels, she broadcast urgently. Cease fire immediately. We are an unarmed humanitarian convoy. There are thousands of civilians in our care. The only response was another volley, this time targeting the Hope itself. The ship shuddered violently as the first impact struck. Direct hit to Medical Bay 3, someone shouted over the alarms. Multiple casualties. Shuttle Bay 2 is gone, reported another voice. Fires on decks 5 through 8. Sharma gripped her command console to stay upright as the ship rocked with more impacts. Get a distress signal out to Earth and the Galactic Treaty Peacekeepers, she ordered. Transmit all sensor data of this attack. Make sure they know who's responsible. As the communications officer worked frantically to comply, Sharma watched in horror as the Four-Lag ships methodically targeted each vessel in her convoy. They were being deliberate, she realized, not just disabling the ships, but specifically targeting areas known to house civilians and medical facilities. Director, called the communications officer, her voice shaking. I've managed to get a partial distress signal through, but they're jamming our long-range communications. Another violent impact rocked the ship, and the lights flickered. The main power was failing. Sensor data? Sharma asked, coughing as smoke began to fill the bridge. Transmitted, but I can't confirm receipt, came the reply. Launch all emergency life pods, Sharma ordered. Get as many people off this ship as possible. Even as the evacuation order went out, Sharma could see on the remaining functional displays that the Four-Lag ships were now targeting the life pods as they launched, picking them off one by one. They're not leaving witnesses, Morris said, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. This isn't a mistake or a misunderstanding. It's deliberate extermination. Another explosion tore through the ship, closer this time, and part of the ceiling collapsed. Sharma was thrown to the floor, pain lancing through her side where a piece of debris had struck her. Through the chaos and smoke, she saw Dr. Reese pulling a young crew member from under a fallen beam. Despite a bleeding wound on his own arm, the doctor was still trying to save others. "Dr. Reese," she called out, "get to a life pod. That's an order." Reese looked up, meeting her eyes across the devastated bridge. Understanding passed between them. They both knew the chances of survival were minimal, but someone had to try. Someone had to bear witness. Reese nodded once, then grabbed the injured crew member and another nearby refugee, a small child who had somehow found their way to the bridge during the chaos, and began dragging them toward the nearest escape pod access. The last thing Director Sharma saw before another explosion engulfed the bridge was the Four-Lag flagship targeting a cluster of fleeing life pods, its weapons firing with methodical precision. In the cold darkness of space, a single life pod tumbled away from the devastation, its systems damaged but still functional enough to maintain life support. Inside, Dr. Liam Reese applied pressure to a wound on his leg while keeping a watchful eye on the unconscious child strapped into one of the survival chairs. Through the pod's small viewport, he could see the scattered debris of what had once been a humanitarian convoy, illuminated briefly by the continuing explosions as the Four-Lag ships ensured nothing substantial remained. Tears streamed down his face as he watched, not just for his lost colleagues, but for the thousands of refugees who had placed their trust in the EIA's protection. The pod's damaged engines sputtered, pushing it toward a nearby asteroid field, perhaps their only chance at avoiding detection long enough for help to arrive, if anyone was even looking for survivors. Reese checked the communications system, but it was dead, damaged in their desperate escape. All he could do now was wait, and hope that Director Sharma's final transmission had reached Earth. On Earth, in the imposing central chamber of the Unified Earth Directorate headquarters in Geneva, the atmosphere was tense. The room was designed for calm deliberation, with its circular arrangement of seating facing a central holographic projection area, but today it hummed with barely contained fury. President Eva Rostova stood with her hands clasped behind her back, her tall, slender figure silhouetted against the massive windows overlooking Lake Geneva. Though in her 60s, Rostova maintained the straight-back posture of her military youth, her silver hair cut in a practical bob that framed her angular face. "Play it again," she ordered, her voice steady but cold. The fragmented distress call from the Hope filled the chamber once more. Director Sharma's voice, broken by static and the sounds of explosions, described the unprovoked attack. The transmission ended abruptly with the sound of a massive explosion, then silence. "The sensor data package confirms everything," said Admiral Jianli, standing beside the holographic display. The Admiral was a compact man with a weathered face that rarely betrayed emotion, but today, anger smoldered in his dark eyes. The Four-Lag ships deliberately targeted the medical facilities, the civilian transports, even the escape pods. This wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding. It was a massacre. "And we're certain it was the Four-Lag Alliance?" asked Rostova, turning to face the room. The intelligence chief, Director Pascal, nodded. "Absolutely, Madam President. We've intercepted communications from Commander Kalen's ship to Four-Lag High Command." He reported the complete elimination of the EIA convoy, describing it as removing potential support infrastructure for insurgent elements. They were already creating their cover story. Murmurs of outrage rippled through the assembled officials. "The Four-Lag have gone too far this time," said the Foreign Affairs Minister. "We should bring this to the Galactic Treaty Council immediately, demand sanctions." "Sanctions?" interrupted a harsh voice from the far side of the table. General Santiago, the army representative, leaned forward, his face flushed with anger. "They murdered thousands of our people. Civilians, medical personnel. They hunted down escape pods, for God's sake." "I agree that diplomatic measures aren't sufficient," Admiral Lee said calmly, "but we must consider our response carefully. The Four-Lag Alliance has always operated on the principle that might makes right. They respect only overwhelming force. What are you suggesting, Admiral? Rostova asked, studying him carefully. Lee activated a new holographic display. I'm suggesting we activate the Aegis fleet, Madam President. A murmur of surprise passed through the chamber. For many there, this was the first confirmation that the rumored secret fleet actually existed. I thought Aegis was just a theoretical strategic exercise, someone said. Lee smiled thinly. It was never theoretical. For the past 15 years, we've been building a fleet unlike anything Earth has publicly acknowledged. Hidden production facilities on the far side of the moon, in the Jovian Trojan asteroids, and in deep space. Ships with capabilities far beyond what anyone believes Earth possesses. The hologram showed the fleet's composition: massive dreadnoughts, carriers, stealth destroyers, electronic warfare platforms, and swarms of autonomous combat drones. The numbers were staggering. This violates the galactic treaty armament limitations, the foreign minister pointed out, though his voice lacked conviction. No, Lee corrected. The treaty limits. What we deploy, not what we build. The Aegis fleet has never been deployed beyond our solar system. Until now, it has existed as a deterrent that no one knew about, our ultimate insurance policy. President Rostova studied the display, her expression grave. And you're proposing we use this fleet against the Four-Lag Alliance? I'm proposing Operation Hammerfall, Madam President, Lee replied. A comprehensive strike to neutralize the Four-Lag Alliance's military capabilities and bring those responsible for this atrocity to justice. Not just a punitive action, but a decisive one that ensures they can never threaten us, or anyone else, again. The scale of retaliation you're suggesting, began the foreign minister, is proportionate to the crime, Lee finished firmly. The Four-Lag deliberately targeted a humanitarian mission. They hunted down escape pods to eliminate witnesses. They must understand that such actions have consequences they cannot withstand. President Rostova walked slowly around the holographic display, studying the fleet composition. What exactly would Operation Hammerfall entail, Admiral? 3 phases, Lee explained. First, we blind and isolate them, taking out their command and control infrastructure, sensor networks, and FDL communication relays across their core systems. Second, we eliminate their military infrastructure, shipyards, weapons facilities, fleet bases. Third, we neutralize their remaining combat forces and secure the surrender of those responsible. Civilian casualties? Rostova asked pointedly. Will be unavoidable near military targets, Lee admitted. But unlike the Four-Lag, we will not deliberately target civilian areas. Our strikes will be precise and focused on military objectives. Rostova nodded, then addressed the room. I want opinions. All of you. For nearly an hour, the debate raged. Some argued for diplomacy, for coalition building with other powers before acting. Others supported immediate military action, but suggested a more limited response. Lee remained steadfast in his advocacy for Operation Hammerfall. The Four-Lag understand only one language, he insisted. If we respond with anything less than overwhelming force, they will see it as weakness. And they will strike again, perhaps next time at Earth itself. Finally, Rostova raised her hand for silence. She stood at the head of the table, looking each council member in the eye before speaking. 4 hours ago, thousands of innocent lives were snuffed out in an act of barbarism that cannot go unanswered. These weren't soldiers. They were doctors, aid workers, refugees, people under Earth's protection. The Four-Lag Alliance made a critical miscalculation. They believed that because we present ourselves to the galaxy as advocates for peace and cooperation, we are weak. Her voice hardened. They are about to learn how wrong they were. She turned to Admiral Lee. Admiral, you have authorization to execute Operation Hammerfall effective immediately. Your primary objectives are to neutralize the Four-Lag Alliance's capacity to wage war and to bring Commander Kalin and the leadership responsible for this atrocity to justice. Linudda Sulamli. Yes, Madam President. One more thing, Rostova added. I want to know to the galaxy why we are taking this action. Send a message to the Galactic Treaty Headquarters. The Four-Flag Alliance has committed an unprovoked atrocity against a clearly marked EIA humanitarian convoy. Earth is exercising its right of self-defense and ensuring such actions are never repeated. We request all non-military personnel evacuate Four-Flag military installations. As the council dispersed to their respective duties, Rostova pulled admirably aside. "Jin," she said quietly, using his first name for the first time in public memory, "make sure that if there are any survivors from our convoy, finding them is a priority." Lee nodded. "I've already designated search and rescue teams. If anyone survived, we'll find them." "Good," Rostova said. "Now go make sure the Four-Flag Alliance regrets the day they mistook our compassion for weakness." Within hours, the massive ships of the Aegis fleet emerged from their hidden bases. The flagship, the supercarrier Judgment, left its concealed dock within a hollowed-out asteroid in the Jovian Trojan belt, its massive hull gleaming under the distant sunlight. Across the solar system, vessels of various classes and sizes converged, forming battle groups that then accelerated toward FTL jump points. Aboard the Judgment, Admiral Lee stood on the bridge, watching as status reports from across the fleet came in. The ship's AI compiled them into a neat summary projected before him. "All battle groups report ready, Admiral," announced the fleet operations officer. Lee nodded, then turned to a young commander standing at attention nearby. "Commander Thorne, your stealth squadron will spearhead the first phase. Are your ships and crews prepared?" Commander Eris Thorne, a woman in her early 30s with short auburn hair and intense green eyes, nodded crisply. "Yes, Admiral. Strike Package Alpha is loaded and all pilots are briefed. We can deploy immediately upon arrival." Lee studied her for a moment. Thorne was President Rostova's niece, but she had earned her position through merit, not nepotism. Her record in the simulated fleet exercises was outstanding, particularly in stealth operations. "Very good," he said. "Remember, your primary targets are their CNC nodes and sensor arrays. Take those out, and the rest of the operation becomes significantly easier." "Understood, sir," Thorne replied. "My squadron won't fail you." "Fleet is in position for synchronized FTL jump, Admiral," reported the navigation officer. Lee took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. This would be Earth's first major military operation beyond its solar system, and a revelation to the galaxy of capabilities long kept secret. "Execute jump sequence," he ordered. Operation Hammerfall is now active. The sensation of FTL travel rippled through the ship, a momentary disorientation as space folded around them, compressing the vast distances between stars into a traversable pathway. When they emerged, the fleet was scattered strategically across the edge of Four-Flag Alliance space, positioned to strike key systems simultaneously. Commander Thorne's stealth squadron was the first to launch. Their ships, barely larger than fighter craft but packed with advanced electronic warfare systems and precision munitions, accelerated away from the Judgment, their stealth systems rendering them nearly invisible to conventional sensors. "Squadron, maintain calm discipline," Thorne ordered as they approached their first target, a massive sensor relay station orbiting a gas giant in the Four-Flag border system. "Execute according to plan." The squadron split into 3 attack wings, each heading for different components of the sprawling facility. Unlike conventional warships with their obvious weapons arrays, the stealth craft resembled sleek black needles, their surfaces absorbing rather than reflecting light and sensor pings. As they closed on the target, Thorne activated her ship's specialized electronic warfare package. Immediately, the Four-Flag station's sensors began receiving conflicting data, phantom ships appearing and disappearing, false readings obscuring the approach of the actual attack craft. "EW package effective," reported her tactical officer. "Their defense systems are confused." "Strike teams, you are clear to deploy," Thorne ordered. From the belly of each stealth craft, smaller drones detached, streaking toward specific vulnerabilities in the station's infrastructure. Some carried precision kinetic penetrators designed to physically destroy key components, while others released specialized EMP devices tailored to overwhelm and burn out the sophisticated communication arrays. The first explosions blossomed silently in the vacuum, taking out power relays and backup generators. Secondary detonations followed as systems overloaded across the massive station. Within minutes, the primary sensor hub for that entire sector of four-lag space had been reduced to a drifting, powerless hulk. Target neutralized, Thorne reported, proceeding to secondary objectives. Similar scenes played out across four-lag space as the stealth squadrons struck simultaneously at dozens of critical infrastructure nodes. FTL communication relays, central command bunkers, fleet coordination centers, all went dark in a carefully orchestrated symphony of precision strikes. Aboard the Judgment, Admiral Lee watched the tactical display as, one by one, sections of the four-lag command network went offline. The first phase was proceeding even more smoothly than anticipated, as the four-lag struggled to understand what was happening. Without long-range communications, each four-lag outpost and fleet detachment was suddenly isolated, unable to coordinate a coherent response. Begin Phase 2 electronic warfare protocols, Lee ordered. Specialized ships in the fleet activated powerful broadcast systems, flooding four-lag tactical frequencies with contradictory orders, false alarms, and deceptive fleet movements. Some four-lag commanders received apparent orders to retreat to defensive positions, while others were directed to advance against phantom threats. In the confusion, four-lag ships fired on their own vessels, mistaking them for Earth attackers. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other powers detected unusual energy signatures and communication disruptions emanating from four-lag space. The Galactic Treaty Headquarters received Earth's terse message, causing immediate alarm among the member species. Emergency sessions were called as diplomats and military attaches debated how to respond to Earth's unexpected show of force. In the heart of four-lag territory, Commander Kalen stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominant, struggling to make sense of the cascade of failures affecting his forces. The ship's lighting flickered as power fluctuations rippled through the systems. "What do you mean you can't reach high command?" he bellowed at his communications officer. "Try again." "Sir, all FTL communication relays are offline," the officer replied, his voice tight with stress. "We're limited to light-speed communications only, effective range of a single system." "And the sensor networks?" 80% of our border sensor stations are non-responsive, reported the tactical officer. "We're effectively blind beyond our immediate vicinity." Kalen pounded his fist on the command console. "This is impossible. No one has the capability to launch such a coordinated attack across our entire territory simultaneously." "Sir," the tactical officer said hesitantly, "the attack pattern suggests Earth forces." Kalen turned slowly to face him. "Earth? They have nothing that could do this. Their military is defensive, limited to their solar system. A few patrol craft for their colonies, nothing more." "Sir, the energy signatures match nothing in our database. These are technologies we haven't encountered before." A cold feeling settled in Kalen's stomach. Had he miscalculated? The attack on the humanitarian convoy had been a calculated risk, eliminating potential support for both sides in the Kepler 186 conflict, creating an opportunity for four-lag intervention. He had assumed Earth would protest, perhaps even attempt a limited retaliatory strike that his forces could easily repel, further cementing four-lag dominance. This, however, was something else entirely. "Order all fleet elements to converge on our position," Kalen commanded. "We'll establish a defensive perimeter and wait for reinforcement from the central systems." "Sir," his executive officer said quietly, "I believe we are the central systems now. Whatever is happening, it's happening everywhere." Across four-lag space, the second phase of Operation Hammerfall began in earnest. With the enemy's command and control infrastructure in shambles, the main battle groups of the Aegis fleet moved into position around key military installations. From orbit, precision kinetic strikes rained down on shipyards, weapons factories, fleet bases, and fuel depots. The strikes were surgical where possible, targeting specific facilities rather than leveling entire complexes, but the destructive power was awesome to behold. Massive antimatter-enhanced warheads created fireballs that could be seen from orbit, while swarms of smaller munitions sought out hardened bunkers and underground facilities. Fighter squadrons launched from Earth carriers engaged the few four-lag defensive ships that managed to mount a response, overwhelming them with superior numbers, technology, and coordination. The disparity in capabilities became immediately apparent. Earth fighters easily evaded four-lag targeting systems while delivering devastating blows with weapons that seemed to ignore conventional shields. In the asteroid belt of a key four-lag military system, the damaged life pod containing Dr. Liam Reese and the refugee child drifted among the tumbling rocks. Reese had managed to stabilize both his own wounds and the child's, but the pod's life support was failing, oxygen levels dropping steadily. "Just hold on a little longer," he whispered to the semi-conscious child, a girl of perhaps 7 years with pale blue skin marking her as a native of Kepler, 186c. Help will come. Though he said the words with conviction, he didn't believe them. In the hours since their escape, he had watched through the viewport as distant flashes indicated continued four-lag activity in the system. No one knew they were here. No one was coming. The pod's emergency lights suddenly shifted from the dull red of critical power to a pulsing yellow. "Proximity alert," announced the pod's simplified AI. "Unknown vessel approaching." Reese's heart sank. The four-lag had found them after all. He placed himself between the hatch and the child, determined that if these were to be his final moments, he would die trying to protect her. The pod shuddered as something locked onto its outer hull. Reese braced himself, expecting the hatch to be blown open, exposing them to vacuum. Instead, there was a series of mechanical sounds, and then the hatch slid open smoothly. Standing in the opening was a figure in a sleek combat suit marked with Earth's insignia. "Dr. Reese?" the figure asked, helmet speakers giving the voice a slightly mechanical quality. "I'm Lieutenant Park, Earth Special Operations. We're here to extract you." Reese stared, uncomprehending. "Earth? How?" "There's no time to explain," Park said, reaching forward to help Reese up. "We need to move quickly. This entire system is about to become a war zone." As they were transferred to the rescue craft, a small, agile vessel that seemed to be built primarily for stealth operations, Reese caught glimpses through the viewports of massive Earth warships in the distance, like nothing he had ever seen before. "What's happening?" he asked the medic who was attending to his wounds. "Those ships, they're Earth vessels? Since when does Earth have a fleet like that?" "Since we decided we needed one," the medic replied simply. "And right now, the Four-Lag Alliance is finding out why." Meanwhile, Commander Kalen had finally managed to assemble a significant portion of the Four-Lag fleet around his flagship. 30 warships, including 5 dreadnoughts, formed a defensive perimeter, weapons primed and ready. "Let them come," Kalen declared to his officers. Whatever advantage of surprise they had is gone. Now they faced the might of the Four-Lag fleet. As if in answer to his challenge, space distorted at the edge of the system as dozens of Earth vessels emerged from FTL jumps simultaneously. The tactical display showed ships of various classes, from massive carriers to sleek destroyers, all advancing in perfect formation. "Open a channel," Kalen ordered. "Let's see what they want." The main view screen activated, showing Admiral Lee standing on the bridge of the Judgment. "Commander Kalen," Lee said, his voice cold. "I am Admiral Jian Lee of the Unified Earth Directorate Fleet. You are hereby ordered to surrender your vessels and yourself to Earth custody to face justice for the unprovoked attack on an EIA humanitarian convoy." Kalen laughed. "Surrender? To you? You may have caught us by surprise with your initial strikes, Admiral, but now you face the concentrated might of the Four-Lag fleet. Your pathetic Earth vessels will be reduced to debris." Lee's expression didn't change. "You were warned, Commander. Remember that what follows is a consequence of your own actions." The communication cut off. Moments later, the Earth fleet began to move, but not in the expected attack formation. Instead, They spread out in an elaborate pattern that Kalen's tactical officers couldn't immediately decipher. "They're trying to surround us," Kalen concluded. "Defense pattern Epsilon. Concentrate fire on their largest vessels as they come into range." But the Earth ships didn't close to conventional weapons range. Instead, they maintained their distance while launching what appeared to be hundreds of small objects. "Missiles?" asked Kalen's executive officer. The tactical officer shook his head, puzzled. "No, they're too small for standard missiles, and they're not on attack vectors. They're positioning themselves around our formation." Suddenly, every system on the Forlag flagship began to malfunction simultaneously. Weapons went offline, engines failed, and even life support fluctuated wildly. "What's happening?" Kalen demanded. "Some kind of targeted electromagnetic pulse," reported the engineering officer, voice panicked. "But it's specifically targeting our systems. I've never seen anything like it." With his ships temporarily disabled, Kalen watched in helpless rage as Earth fighters streaked past the immobilized Forlag vessels, delivering precision strikes that disabled engines, weapons, and propulsion systems without destroying the ships outright. Within 20 minutes, the pride of the Forlag fleet had been reduced to drifting hulks, unable to fight or flee. The Earth vessels closed in, deploying boarding parties to secure each ship. When armored Earth Marines breached the bridge of the Dominant, Kalen stood with his back straight, refusing to show fear. "Commander Kalen," announced the Marine captain, "you are under arrest for war crimes against Earth citizens and violation of galactic treaty provisions regarding the protection of humanitarian missions." As he was led away in restraints, Kalen finally understood the magnitude of his miscalculation. The Earth he thought he knew, peaceful, restrained, reluctant to use military force, had been a carefully maintained facade, concealing a sleeping giant with teeth and claws sharper than anything the Forlag had imagined. The next few days saw the systematic occupation of key Forlag military and political centers by Earth forces. Admiral Lee personally oversaw the establishment of an interim authority, composed primarily of moderates from the Forlag civilian leadership who had opposed the military's aggressive policies. The Earth fleet remained in position, an unmistakable reminder of what would happen to anyone who resisted. The few attempts at continued resistance were swiftly crushed with overwhelming force, but true to Earth's stated intentions, civilian areas were spared direct attack unless they housed military targets. A week after Operation Hammerfall began, a formal trial was convened aboard the Judgment. Representatives from the Galactic Treaty were present as observers, as were leaders from other major powers who had been shocked by Earth's sudden revelation of its military capabilities. In the ship's converted conference hall, Commander Kalen and his direct subordinates stood before a panel of judges, 3 from Earth and 2 from the Galactic Treaty Judiciary. Dr. Liam Reese was the first witness called. Still walking with difficulty due to his injuries, he approached the witness stand with dignity. "Dr. Reese," began the lead prosecutor, "please describe for the court what you witnessed during the attack on the EIA convoy." Reese's voice was steady as he recounted the horror, the unprovoked attack, the deliberate targeting of medical facilities and civilian transports, the hunting down of escape pods. As he spoke, sensor data and communication logs recovered from both the convoy's partial transmissions and from captured Forlag ships were displayed. "And in your professional opinion," the prosecutor asked, "was there any legitimate military reason for attacking a clearly marked humanitarian convoy?" "None whatsoever," Reese replied firmly. "Our mission was publicly registered. Our ships were clearly marked, and we carried no weapons or military personnel. The attack was a deliberate attempt to eliminate witnesses and terrorize the population of Kepler 186. When it was Kalen's turn to speak, he remained defiant. "I acted in accordance with Forlag security doctrine," he declared. "The strong do what they will, the weak suffer what they must. It has always been thus in the galaxy." "And yet," observed one of the Galactic Treaty judges, "it seems the Forlag Alliance miscalculated who was truly strong and who was weak." The trial lasted 3 days, with overwhelming evidence presented from multiple sources. The verdict was never in doubt. Kalen and his senior officers were found guilty of crimes against humanity, violation of galactic treaty provisions on the protection of humanitarian missions, and the deliberate targeting of noncombatants. The sentence was delivered by the lead Earth judge. Commander Kalen and his senior officers are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole to be served in a maximum security facility under joint Earth Galactic Treaty supervision. Furthermore, the Four-Lag Alliance will pay substantial reparations to the families of the victims and to the Earth Interstellar Aid Agency for the reconstruction of their humanitarian fleet. Kalen's face remained impassive, but his eyes burned with hatred as he was led away. In the aftermath of Operation Hammerfall and the subsequent trial, the galactic political landscape shifted dramatically. The Four-Lag Alliance, once a feared regional power, was now effectively demilitarized. Earth's terms for withdrawal included the complete dismantling of all Four-Lag offensive military capabilities, the establishment of monitoring stations throughout their territory, and the installation of a new government committed to peaceful integration with the wider galactic community. More significantly, Earth's image throughout the galaxy had undergone a profound transformation. No longer seen merely as idealistic humanitarians with limited military capability, Earth was now recognized, and in some quarters feared, as a formidable power that had somehow developed and concealed military technology far beyond what anyone had suspected. 3 months after the conclusion of Operation Hammerfall, President Rostova and Admiral Lee stood together in a private observation lounge aboard the space station Unity, Earth's diplomatic hub in orbit. The final Four-Lag military installation was decommissioned yesterday, Lee reported, looking out at the Earth below them, a blue marble against the black of space. Our forces should be completely withdrawn by the end of the month, leaving only the treaty-mandated monitoring stations. Rostova nodded, her face reflective. And the cost? The final tally? Lee understood she wasn't asking about monetary expenses. Total Earth casualties during the operation numbered 347, mostly from the few Four-Lag strongholds that resisted. Estimated Four-Lag military casualties around 12,000. Civilian casualties near military targets approximately 3,500. And the convoy? Rostova asked quietly. Final confirmed death toll stands at 8,432, Lee said, his voice tight with controlled emotion. Including Director Sharma and almost her entire command team. They stood in silence for a long moment, the weight of those numbers hanging between them. Was it worth it, Jian? Rostova finally asked. The lives lost, the revelation of our secret fleet, the shift in how the galaxy sees us. Lee considered his answer carefully. The lives lost in the convoy can never be balanced by any action we took. But the message we sent to the galaxy is clear. Earth's compassion is not weakness. Those who mistake it for such and prey upon the innocent will face consequences they cannot withstand. He paused. As for revealing the Aegis fleet, perhaps it was time. Better to be respected than to be thought vulnerable. And Dr. Reese, how is he? Recovering well, both physically and mentally. He's become something of a spokesman for stronger protections for humanitarian missions. The Galactic Treaty is already drafting new protocols with robust enforcement mechanisms this time. And the child? The refugee he saved. A rare smile touched Lee's face. She's been adopted by a family on Earth. Her name is Lyra. Dr. Reese visits her regularly. Rostova nodded, satisfied. And the new EIA fleet? The first ships launch next week, Lee replied. Better protected this time, with dedicated escort vessels. Director Sharma's replacement, Thomas Okafor, seems capable. Good, Rostova said. We must never allow our commitment to helping others to waver, even after such a tragedy. She turned from the window to face Lee directly. The galaxy now knows Earth has teeth, Admiral. Let us hope they remember that we prefer to use our hands for healing, but will not hesitate to bite those who mistake compassion for weakness. As they spoke, across the solar system, the newly commissioned EIA flagship Sharma made its final preparations before departure. On its bow, freshly painted, was the organization's traditional blue and white insignia, but beneath it was a new addition, a small, stylized image of Earth with a shield. Aboard, Dr. Reese walked through the medical bay, inspecting equipment and reviewing procedures with the staff. His legs still ached, sometimes from his wounds, but he had insisted on joining this mission, the first since the tragedy. "Are you sure you're ready for this, Doctor?" asked the young medical officer accompanying him. Reese looked around at the bay, so similar to the one aboard the Hope where he had worked alongside colleagues now gone. Then he thought of Director Sharma's unwavering commitment, of the child Lyra safely on Earth, and of the countless others still waiting for help across the stars. "Yes," he said firmly, "there are people who need us. And this time, the galaxy knows the price of interfering with that mission." Outside the viewports, a small escort of Earth military vessels took up formation around the humanitarian ships, a visible reminder that compassion and strength were not mutually exclusive, but two sides of the same coin. The Sharma and its companion vessels accelerated away from Earth, their blue and white markings gleaming in the sunlight. They carried with them supplies, medicine, and hope for those in need, along with the implicit promise that Earth would protect those who carried its banner of mercy, with overwhelming force if necessary. The galaxy had learned a costly lesson. They could fire on a rescue convoy, but Earth would launch a total retaliation.